Now, the whole internet is abuzz about the Donald Trump and Elon Musk rift, and you have influencers all over the place, pundits, people on social media chiming in to say if they're Team Elon or Team Trump. But I think most of those things are red herrings, and I'm going to tell you why I think the Trump and Elon rift is a good thing. And I'll actually tell you two reasons, but I'll save maybe the most underappreciated one for later. So number one, this exposes the extent to which Republicans are charlatans on spending. They always campaign like champions of limited government. Then they come into Washington and pass some of the biggest big spending bills ever. This happened with the CARES Act. Thomas Massie opposed that back in Trump's first term, and he was dragged by Trump for it. They said he wasn't a team player. Now it happened again. You had Doge proposals of up to $2 trillion in cuts that never were followed through. Doge ended up having something like $150 billion saved. And when it came to codifying those cuts, again, Massie supported codifying them into law. Trump dragged him and others like Rand Paul for doing that. So here's what happened the other day. Trump tweeted, Elon was wearing thin. I asked him to leave. I took away his EV mandate that forced everyone to buy electric cars that nobody else wanted, and he just went crazy. That's what Trump said. Clearly bitter that Elon Musk dared to go on Twitter and criticize this pork spending, this ludicrous debt spending in the form of the big beautiful bill, which is the big horrendous bill that would add $5 trillion to the debt. And here's how Elon responded, and I think this is so interesting. Time to drop the really big bomb. Real Donald Trump is in the Epstein files. That is the real reason they haven't been made public. Have a nice day, DJT. So the hammer is dropped. This is about the hardest core response you can possibly make. It probably wasn't foreseen by a lot of people, but here's the backdrop. So yeah, not only does this expose the Republicans for the frauds that they are on spending, they could have codified Doge Cuts into law if they really wanted it. Trump has an incredible electoral mandate, and these programs were super popular with the populace. If you saw polls, even the mainstream media had to admit that to some extent. But here's the real big thing I think most people are missing about this response that makes it such a good thing by Musk. I won't take a position of whether or not Musk truly knows this, by the way. I tend to doubt he does because I think it's being covered up at the highest levels of the FBI, who we know are in possession of tapes that were labeled that Epstein had for blackmail on politicians, and obviously some of the people who he trafficked children to. We obviously know that. They got charged for trafficking children to no one. It doesn't make any sense. But here's the big thing. If this was a gambit on Musk's part, knowing that all bridges were now burned with Trump, it really was potentially an act of pure genius. It might have been the best gambit to get the Epstein files released yet. Because let's say Trump sees this tweet and responds in a way that makes it seem like he is withholding information continually still after all this time, and he refuses to release the Epstein files. It makes it imply that he might indeed be on those files. But if he does release it in an attempt to clear his name, it makes all of the distance in the world happy, satisfied, and transparency actually comes out. We actually know who at the highest levels of government was in on this child sex trafficking ring. That would be what we really need to know. So again, not taking a stance on whether or not Musk truly knows this, but this was perhaps the best angle ever from one of the most influential people in the world to actually get these files released. Because Trump is forced into a precarious situation here. If he does release it, it's a good thing. We finally have transparency on that and knowledge of how corrupt the government is. We might actually learn the intelligence services that Epstein worked for. That's also something that's not being talked about a lot compared to, who's the client list. I think that is somewhat of a red herring because we know that tapes exist that show many of these crimes. So for that, congrats. I think the rift could play out to be a good thing, especially in light of this tweet. and not taking, a rigid stance on either party. I've been very critical of Trump, and I genuinely think that Musk actually did care about some of the ludicrous spending. Otherwise, he wouldn't be reacting in such a way. You saw him lecturing Trump's cabinet at times and continually talking about how this is such a serious crisis and America is going bankrupt. But this Epstein thing adds a new twist to the wrinkle. But I do want to hear from what you guys think. Let me know in the comments below. Do you think that this was a calculated risk to get the Epstein files released? Let me know down below. Please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and until I see you guys next time, no more war, no more debt, no more inflation, and no more empire. Peace out, guys. I'll catch you in the next one.